we're starting on time. Thank you for coming through to Kirkhope. Can you swap the seats, please? Thank you. Yeah, that's my request, please. Yeah, because now it's fabric leather, so not fabric leather fabric.
Oh, fabric leather fabric.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So let's swap that one out.
Yeah.
So, and he did tell me, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just thought he must be more comfortable than me.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Terrence.
Thanks.
Coach, just to start off the press conference, have your thoughts on the upcoming game against Stellenbosch. After that, we'll open the floor to members of the media.
Good afternoon, members of the media. We're looking forward to it already. We've started with the preparations. Didn't go too much into the detail because, of course, we've got to do more debrief about last night's performance, which we did, and we were also short sharp because we also got to think about the recovery of the players. But I took maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Normally I take a little bit longer to explain what I've already seen based on watching them last night against Golden Arrows, and I think we have a clear understanding of what we need to do, and even though the pictures and the information will get clearer and more detailed tomorrow, but I think the work has started. We know they are a very good side, they are on a very good form. They are extremely consistent, and the only thing is maybe in goals. Against Arrows was Sage Stevens, but you've seen also that in some of the cup games they've played Masuluke. But the back four is quite consistent, particularly with the two centre backs, with Thabo Moloisane and Tore. The physicality of Tore also on set pieces is so important. The positioning of Thabo on build-up, so key. And then, of course, you've got Van Rooyen and Pasadena as the wing-backs, speed, aggression, underlaps, inverting positions also, not just staying on the line, but also overloading the center. And then you've got Nduli and Adams giving the legs to arrive late into the box and create some situations with drives and getting closer to the offensive line, especially on counter-attacks. And then of course everything is in and around Ikram Reines. You know, with the moment the ball is with Ikram, then you've got the people running. Titus is on his bike. De Jong joins with very clever movement in and around Titus to play off. And Aura is quite an interesting player, physical, speed, some very good qualities, even technically a bit more proficient. So we can understand the stability that they have as a team. The model of play that they try to adopt is quite clear. The individual profiling of the players that they use is also quite clear. And of course, because of the run that they are in, they play with a sense of invincibility, which is very important when you come into games like this. And we've got to be ready for what is going to be a very difficult game at a very difficult stadium too.
Okay, we'll open questions to the floor. And there's members, please. Can you quickly give the mic? Who is that? Lorenz? Okay, Lorenz at the front. Oh, Huyo is one. You can start with Huyo.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Huyo.
While we're still just on Stellenbosch, Coach, what do you make of Coach Steve Barker's just efforts over the years and what he's done at Stellenbosch? It seems like his work has gone on to sort of change the football landscape in the country, where we've got now another team that is really fighting for big spots, as opposed to the original maybe two teams that have to make. what do you make of his efforts just in past seasons? I mean, you look at now, I think about 25 unbeaten. Last time it was actually by Sundowns back in September. So immense work that he's done. And if that goes into his preparation as well, when you look at the status of the team, Stellenbosch.
Yeah, no, he's a coach I've got immense respect for. I've said it also numerous times how much I've got huge admiration for the work that he does. The appreciation also for the longevity, to sustain the energy and evolve consistently, because you've seen how he's evolved even from his days at Tuks, and his playing style to how Stellenbosch plays completely different. So you've got to really appreciate him for that. He's a good person, because all my interactions with him are always very pleasant, an extreme gentleman. He's one of the godfathers of our coaching fraternity, the ones that have spent the most number of years coaching. Him, Middendorp, Gavin Hunt, these are the people I call the godfathers, the ones that we look up to because of the number of years that they've served the game, and diligently and honestly too, so he is someone I've got incredible respect for, and of course we go into the game understanding that we're playing against that. I do have to say that I think a lot of the work of what we see of Stellenbosch is based on very good planning and long-term planning, and a few weeks ago I was talking about how important it is for a football club to have a coach for a long term, and Stellenbosch are a very good reflection of that. They've had the coach for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, since winning promotion, and step by step setting certain goals and achieving certain goals, and maybe even I've heard him speak a couple of times saying they've achieved even beyond the time frames that they had set for themselves. But this is what great organizations and big football clubs do, and already I think what they've set for themselves is a platform to try to achieve even bigger and greater things. Sure, Lawrence.
Yeah. For Grant, firstly, won a title yesterday, mathematically. I haven't received a trophy yet, but when you add that to your CV, a league title, does it make you guys grow in confidence, or is it just something that's on your CV? Does it do anything for your confidence and the way you go forward in your career? And Terrence, outsiders would say that you guys were like a second string side to play against Chiefs and whoever when they were resting, your Shishis and things like that. But how much is it for you guys who don't or aren't like regulars? How much motivation is it to show your coach that I need to play a semi-final in the Nedbank Cup? Because what we saw yesterday, what many would perceive as a second string team, destroy Chiefs at FNB.
Colleague.
Afternoon, colleagues. Renzo, I think it does a lot for our confidence, I think for us being at this institution, we know what's required of us, and that's to win, we try to win all the trophies that we partake in. I think it does a lot for us individually also. It feels good to have medals and trophies on your CV, but we don't stop there. The coach always reiterates about not being too high in the good moments and not too low in the bad moments. To always just keep our feet firmly on the ground, and I think that's what's carried us throughout, and that's why we've been able to be as successful as we've been. But we know that we don't stop until the casket drops. Thank you, colleagues.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
To answer your question, I'd say at Sundowns there's only one team. All of us, we are important in the team, and it's important to always be ready. In as much as you're not playing, but it's very important to be ready. because we are privileged enough to have at least 2 or 3 players in one possession. So all you have to do is that you need to train and always be ready. When you are given an opportunity, you need to make sure that you impress the coach and also impress yourself. So yeah.
It's for you, Grant, as well as Terrence. With all due respect, to some extent, one would say you're one of the jokers in the team because of your videos and TikTok and so on. But how important is it, to have such characters in the dressing room? Because, some dressing rooms are a bit stiff, but you bring that jovial joy to the team. So how important is it to have characters such as yourself, in the team? Because I think it brings something different, but just explain it in your words. And Terrence as well, working with Coach Rulani, he said countless times that, you guys literally force him to sleep. What are you learning from him as a coach, and what are some of the aspects that you've seen from him that you're also using into your life, to better yourself, firstly as a human being and secondly as a footballer? Yeah, please.
Colleague, I'm not a joke. No, I think it's just the brotherhood within the team, we know how demanding it is when we get onto the field, so we try to make everyone just feel at home, forget about the stresses, especially when we're in the change room, but we all know what's expected and required from us once we get on the field. So it's good to have that balance in the team, I think it makes us even want to work harder, because we also get to know and understand each other as individuals, that this is the type of person this one is outside, so it makes it better to have an understanding once we get on the field. So yeah, it's good that I'm part of the jokers. But,
Funny enough, Terry is more of the joker than
Yeah, I don't think I still remember your question, but I'll just try and answer it. I think for me, when I came to Sundowns, I'd say my level of football was at this level. And then working with Coach Rulani, it has improved me as a player because of before where I was, in terms of corrections, in terms of watching your games, the coach being on your side, it wasn't like that. So when I came to Sundowns, the coach has always been on my side most of the time. He would literally call me in the evenings, and just talk about the game. And when we come back, he'll call me to a one-on-one meetings, and then we'll discuss my game. I remember there was a time where we had a one-on-one meeting, and then he made an example with a water bottle, that my talent is here, and for him it's important that he needs to add more to my talent.
I can't remember the
Yeah. So I think it's important for me as a player to grow. Since I came to Sundowns, honestly, in terms of my level of performance, it has increased. And also playing the CAF, it has also helped me going to the national team. Now I'm more confident because of the experience that I got in the CAF.
Sorry, just anything else increased?
He's a father now, so since he joined Sundowns, he's a father. So that's a big. Yeah. And in fact, I forced him to do it.
My question is for you, Coach.
Yes.
We'll come back second half for the guys.
Thank you.
Coach, a league and cup double in the narrative of treble once in a while. It's something that is revered very much in world football.
Yeah.
You're on the cusp of achieving it. How do you sort of manage the weight of expectation so that you always talk about this not becoming an obsession? Because I can imagine if it doesn't happen, it will leave a bitter taste.
For sure.
How do you manage this whole thing that you do the right thing and try and get it? Because it's
Look, I just try to focus on the processes. I say to the players all the time, never get tired of winning. But never getting tired of winning means never getting tired of doing the things that put you in a position to win. You can't control whether you win or lose or draw football matches. but you can control your investment, your level of work ethic, your intensity of your work, your showing up, regardless of how you feel. Sometimes I am even amazed at what these players do. It's crazy, I watch them. I watch them train. I watch them in the video sessions. I always say to them, I want to see their eyes. I gaze right into their eyes because I want to see that they want it as much as we want it, the supporters want it, the club wants it. And the moment I don't see that, I know that we are in trouble. But at this point in time, that is just part of the small things that we've got to keep up with, is having that fire burning, having the desire to do more and more and more running, more pressing, more passing, more blocking, more shooting, more crossing, more everything that is needed in the game of football, maybe even outside of football. More rest, more water, more massage, more ice bath, more time in the sauna. And these are the things that we've gotten to that point in time where we need a little bit more. And so far, that is what we can control, and that's what we focus on, because it really, really is the most important part of our season. Once you come to the business end of the season, nothing else matters except to give as much as you can, so you leave no space for regrets. And that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to say to ourselves, is it possible to win the treble? Yes, it is, because it is possible. Why should we shy away from speaking about it? And sometimes you shy away from speaking about goals and ambitions because you're afraid of failure. But what failure represents is just a mere opportunity to step back up and dust yourself off and say, I want to learn from this experience and get better and better and better and better. And maybe next time, when you're faced with something of a similar experience, you've now got the benefit of having gone through this thing and having overcome. And we are not afraid of failing, and that's why we are not afraid of setting high standards for ourselves, because if we don't set high standards for ourselves, when we achieve just a mere bare minimum, it goes against the culture and the expectations of this football club. So we try our level best every single day, to give the best that we can, each and every single one of us, to improve and to make sure that we leave the jersey better than we found it.
Thanks, Jules. Good day.
Good day.
My question is to you, Coach. I acknowledge my two colleagues sitting next to you there.
Thank you.
Coach, in the last 3 domestic games that you guys have played, considered 3 penalties.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, I was just curious. When I look at when you play in the Champions League and when you play at home, it's different. And when I look at the average height in terms of like stature of like a North African player, it's around 1.83.
Yeah.
At any given time, your centre back pairing is about 1.8.
Yeah.
And the average height in the PSL is around 1.65 to 7.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you sometimes maybe feel like the treatment that you get in your own league is different to the one that you get there because maybe you have bigger boys, or because your game is more aggressive because of what you are now accustomed to? And does it worry you that it seems as if you guys get soft calls for penalties?
Well, I can't control that. What I can control is to try to find mechanisms to deal with those things. I speak, they know, they hear, I speak about it all the time. Even this morning I spoke about the fact that in the last 3 games we've conceded 3 penalties. And then my job is not to complain, my job is to find solutions. And they know we come up with mechanisms, and sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't, because it's not 100% within our control. But we are working very, very hard not to bleed in and around our box, because every single drop of blood, it gives some form of trace to say maybe the murder took place here, or maybe the murder took place here, or maybe it started here, and so we don't want to do that. And we've got many other things that to try to deal with these type of situations. But of course, there's the risk. You know, it's not always easy to defend so high away from the box and have a high line. And that's one of the reasons why we defend with 40, 60 meters behind us. And that's so difficult. It's put so much stress on the center backs, on the defenders, because one, they've got to deal with possibilities of trying to elevate the game and getting it closer to the box. But also they've got the fear of the speed and having good rest defense to deal with possibilities of being exploited behind. But then you've got to come up with mechanisms in between as to, in case the ball is lost here, in case this happens here, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with the counter-attack that is from this? How do you deal with the long ball that comes from here? And, you know, and some of the things. And that's why opposition analysis is so important, because we then scrutinize details. Who the main deliverers of the passes are. Is it left foot? Is it right foot? How do they receive when they receive? Body orientation. Who starts to move when they receive the ball? You know, these type of things, it's the details that help in terms of preparing for the games. And that's my job. My job is not to control what happens with the referees. They're not a training, and it's not to complain. My job is to find solutions, and I have to try my level best to help these players as much as I possibly can.
You first and then.
Jump. It's been a crazy week, crazy 7 days. Knocked out of the Champions League, and then 48 hours later you have to be, actually 24 hours later you have to be in camp because you're playing on Monday. And then after that you're playing on Thursday. And there's another semi-final, which I'm sure like you know it's a big game. What does it do? How does it feel mentally for the players to, in 1 week, face 4 matches of consequence? And what you guys have to do to make sure you don't lose 2 semi-finals in 1 season?
Is that for me, Cody?
Yeah, it's it.
Yeah, no. I think coach has gotten us into a different mentality when it comes to that space. You know, he always tells us about the top players in Europe and how they play 60 to 70 games a season. And he wants us to get into that space, you know, and believe. So I think we don't even see it as challenges or a challenge anymore, you know, playing every 2-3 days. Yes, it's difficult, but we're not a team that complains, you know, because we want to play in each and every competition. We want to compete in each and every competition, you know, and ultimately win it, you know. So I think for us, you know, it's just a good experience. It helps with our growth. It makes us want to become serial winners, you know. And yeah, we're just enjoying the moment, you know. We try to work as hard as possible, you know, to get the rub of the green. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we're always grateful for the experience always. So yeah, we don't take it as a challenge or anything too hard to handle, you know. This is where the coach also wants us to be, and we believe that we can also get there, you know. So yeah, I think we're enjoying the moment, man.
Jeremy from Houston.
Some jobs.
Firstly, for you, coach, I know you don't like to talk about yourself. We're going to talk about the collective, but pardon me for a bit to sort of digress. The men in your life who sort of shape you to be the coach, the person that you are. It's all documented, and you can even see in your character and in the football that you play. But can you tell us a bit in terms of how the women in your life have shaped you to be who you are as a person and a coach, from your mother to your grand? And then have you been forgiven for not studying law? And to Grant, I mean, a similar question that was asked to Terrence. How was working with Coach Rulani help you or sort of change you in terms of as a person and also as a player?
Yeah, people ask me how I get to deal with so much hardships, and there was a period in my life where after I left my previous job, and I was not fired, I left my previous job within a space of 6 months, I experienced the loss of the late Madisha, who was more than just a player. Even at Chlorokop, every time I tell the players all the time why I'm a person that's fearless, because the day I saw Madisha pass on in the accident was probably the most horrific thing ever that I've ever experienced. And it taught me a lot about how short life is, and how much more pain there is to be experienced than just the pain of being alive and being attacked maybe sometimes or criticized. And within a couple of space, I lost a very important woman in my life, my late grandmother, who raised me. And a woman that taught me a lot about not just being, because I started coaching very, very early. I was 14 years old when I started coaching, and one of the people that really supported me as a coach was my gran. But one of the things I miss a lot from her is her understanding of football. You know, she was one of the people that would be the first to phone me after a good or bad performance. She would be one of the first people to warn me about. And I remember once we were about to play Maritzburg United, and I was still at Pirates, and she called me and she said to me, "Hey, you have to be very careful of Brocky. He moves to the fob." And I was shocked. I said, "Where do you know Brocky from?" And she consistently used to do this. You know, she would walk, and you will forgive me for free advertising, but she would walk to the garage or to the spaza shop to go and buy every Thursday. I think it was on Thursdays or Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken, Soccer Laduma. So she would keep up to breast with what happened in football. But because I was born in a football family, I've grown up in a football family. I was born into it. I grew up in a football family. I have no hobbies outside football. My life is football. And so because of my family and my grand's influence, I can tell you that I haven't cheated this game. And I know that 100% is that I have not cheated football. And that's got to do not only with the influence of my grand, but that's also got to do with the influence of the rest of my family, from my late grandfather to my uncle, to my father, to my mother, as you asked for the other woman in my life. And sometimes one of the things that we forget is the ones closest to us suffer the most. And I can tell you that sometimes I feel more sorry for my mother than I feel for myself, because just a couple of weeks ago, she called me and she was in tears, and she said to me, "If I didn't know how much this means to you, if I didn't know how many sacrifices you have made to get to where you are, I would tell you to stop coaching and find another profession where you will be appreciated and valued." And she said that, and she was in tears. And you know, once your mother is in tears, it takes you to a different space altogether. But these are people that have helped shape me to be the person that I am, and that's why I tell even the players every single day, I don't want to be a good coach if I cannot be a good human being. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to push them. That doesn't mean I'm not going to ask for them to give more and more and more and more, because I start with myself. That's the environment I grew up in. My mother raised me as a single mother. She made so many sacrifices for me to be where I am today. She was an example for the type of man that she wanted me to be. And the only thing I've got to always try to represent is to represent my family as best as I possibly can. And if that makes and brings a smile on her face, then so be it, and for sure the rest of the family.
Yeah, what is working with Coach Rulani done for me? It's done a lot, to be honest. But the one thing that stands out is the confidence. I feel a lot more confident when I play. A lot more confident about myself as a human being, even outside of football. You know, and that's the one thing for me that stands out, because I've always just been someone who's reserved, who's always just kept to himself. People used to mistake it as humility, but I was just shy and probably didn't understand a lot of things, you know, and he's brought that out of me, which I'm grateful for my coach. But yeah, it's a lot, you know. I think I might also just want to write a book about it, because it's changed my life, and took me to levels that I used to dream of, you know. I didn't think I would don the Sundowns jersey, play in Champions League, win the AFL, you know. In my first season here, I mean, we won the treble, you know. So he's also turned me into a winner, you know, someone who believes in winning, who goes into games wanting to win, you know, wanting to improve as a player and as a person, you know. And he reiterates how much being a good human being is, you know. He shows it himself, and it rubs out on all of us as players, you know. And we all have our stories about him, and I'm sure even Terrence has his, but he expects so much from us, but he shows in, and he shows us the work that he puts in each and every day. You know, there's days where we do video sessions there, and you can see coach hasn't slept, or he's slept an hour or two, but he still shows up and does the work and makes it easier for us when we get on the field, you know. And that's the sacrifices that he's talking about, you know, and it helps us take ourselves serious, because, you know, he invests so much into this game, and it just rubs out on each and every one of us as players. And, you know, we're only grateful to be working with a coach like Coach Rulani.
Okay, we'll take the main after that. Two last questions, because Terry has a business meeting after this.
Coach, Dame from Sakala Duma.
Hi, Dame.
The one you currently used to buy.
I can't see you, sorry.
Sorry. Coach.
How are you, big man? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Congratulations. My question to you is, how do you balance keeping the dressing room sacred and content? The Ferguson hair dry incident probably wouldn't happen in today's day and age, because we see the dressing room become a place where cameras go.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that sacredness of old. I know when you came here the first time, you said that you didn't like that this is the Locha one part came out, and that was from the training ground. How do you balance then ensuring that the dressing room remains sacred while also catering to the people who are keen on content? Because obviously the team is a business in itself, so they obviously have to take care of that. So how do you keep that? And then to Terrence, I know in previous conversations before you came to Sundowns, we spoke, and you said that you hardly ever have an off-season. You said that when others go on holiday, you go to the homeland, you go and run on the mountains, and you go and work. I want to ask you, with the schedule that you guys have here, is that still possible? Do you not then run the risk of burnout?
A healthy change room is very important. It's far more important than the tactics. The first thing that I have a very clear understanding is that I'm not dealing with professional football players, but I'm dealing with human beings. And human beings by nature are distinct and different in their characters and their personalities because of their experiences. And because of that, I have to deal with Terrence different to how I have to deal with Grant. I can speak to Terrence in a certain way, whereas there are certain things that I cannot say to Grant, or the tone, or maybe there are players where I've got to speak to them like equals to get the best out of them. I have to treat each and every single one of them differently. But I've also got to invest a lot of time. Like Terrence says, I spend a lot of time. Sometimes I know I irritate them, because at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the phone rings and I'm talking to Grant and I'm saying, where are you? What are you doing? Are you watching football? I phoned Terrence. What did you think of your last game? What did you think of training? And I know they would love to go on with their lives and do other things, but if I don't show interest in their own personal lives and I want to know what's happening, I know Terrence's family. I know the fact that he's given birth to a new baby boy. I've met I hope it will be a fiance very soon, but I know Grant's son, Tsitsi, like he's my own son. And when he comes to the field, one of the first things he does is he runs to me. When I phoned Grant, the first person that says, I want to talk to coach, is his son. Grant doesn't want to talk to me. And his son says, I want to talk to coach. Why have you not been calling coach? And he even forces him to even do a FaceTime sometimes, where he wants to have. But these are the things that I'm just trying to say, that sometimes it goes beyond just what we see on the pitch, to try to manage the change room, because you've got to invest in their lives and show interest in their own personal lives and interest in them as human beings. And then at the end, it's about working with good people. I can't take credit for the men that they are. They are good human beings. And that makes life a little bit easier to be able to manage the change room, because they are incredible people. They are so patient with me in all my flaws and my weaknesses. They show me so much love and protect. I mean, I must show you the messages that I get from Grant. In fact, even just last night from the players, it's crazy. I always say it, every human being wants to feel loved and appreciated. And I give them that love and that appreciation and that respect. But one thing I'm very, very grateful to God for is that I've got a group of players that show me the same amount of love and appreciation. And that for me is probably one of the greatest blessings any coach can ever have.
Any last two questions?
I still have to answer this question. Yeah. Yeah, to answer your question, I'd say one thing about football is that football is like a drug. So you get addicted to it to a point that if you have like 4 days off, maybe I believe like you'll take 2, and then on the third day you feel like, I need to train. So for me, it has always been like that. I've been addicted to this drug. So in most cases, like in off season, like I said before, I would rest maybe for like a week, and then after a week I'll feel like, maybe like I'm losing something, so I need to train. Even now, in as much as like we have a busy schedule, but if they give us like 3 days or something, I'll come to training and train, just to make sure that I'm always, like I remain in that level, I don't drop. So like I've been addicted to this drug, so it's difficult sometimes to rest.
My question is to the guys. The coaches just touched on the women element. Obviously, I mean, you guys are human beings before you are footballers, and you suffer and all that kind of thing. I just want to check with the schedule that Sundowns operates.
It's good.
In life, you don't get a free pass. You sacrifice with your work. What are the sacrifices that you guys have to make to be able to sustain what the demands of what the Sundowns needs? You guys are parents. Sometimes it takes for the longest time to see your kids, and also these days football. There's too much information that comes in. You've got to deal with a lot of stuff that comes. Your bodies take a lot of punishing up and down and all these kind of things. Just the sort of the sacrifices that you guys have to make to be where you are now.
I'd say we normally sacrifice a lot, especially with the schedule that we have. I remember for me when my son was born, I went to the hospital, and the next day I had to go to camp, to report to camp. So it has always been like difficult. Even now, I don't think like he knows me that much. He's like 8 months, but I don't see him a lot. Like I would say in a week, maybe I'll see him twice. So it's, those are the sacrifices that we have to make. But I think it's important, especially for his future. I think it's important for me to work just to make sure that he has a bright future.
Oh, yeah, I think Terrence has pretty much summed it up. You know, I mean, my experience is just recent. You know, my son started grade 1 this year. I couldn't be there, you know, on his first day at school. But I think at his age now, he finally understands that, you know, every 2-3 days, daddy has to go to camp, daddy has to work, so that he's able to go to proper schools, you know, because we want our children to have better than what we had, and that's the reason why we are willing to go through all the sacrifices that we go through. You know, it's for good purpose and for their future. So as much as we'd love to spend all our days with them, you know, we know that it's not possible, especially when we're here at Sundowns, you know, and it's not something we complain about, but it's something that we work with, and you know, we try to make the most of the time that we get to see them, because like yesterday, I wasn't in the team, so before we reported, I went to see him for a bit, and it feels good because sometimes they just need you to come, maybe give them a hug, you know, because sometimes you talk on the phone, doesn't feel the same as when you're there and you're present, you know. So the little time that we get to spend with them, I think we make the most of it. So it makes missing them that much better when we get to see them.
Thanks. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Colleagues for winning the league. Coach, the rise of Stellenbosch and obviously with Pirates also having good form this season as they are still fighting for the second spot. How do you see it in the coming season, especially giving you much more competition and maybe helping you to be in better space when you compete in the Champions League? How do you see it developing? Can they be the teams to challenge you locally?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will answer it the way I spoke to the players at the beginning of the season. Our focus is to improve. Our focus is not to lower our standards so that we allow them to become competitors. We have to get better, and by getting better, that means they have to get better. And it's not our responsibility to make the league a competitive season. Our jobs are to focus on making sure that we do better than we did this season. And what that means is that some of the things that we did this season that worked might not work next season. Some of the ideas we had, I mean, there are things that I'm starting to see in this season that we tried last season. I mean, today I was speaking about a small technical execution that happened in one of the games that I was trying to work on last season, and we saw from Europe it just didn't work. And now all of a sudden I see it working, and I'm like, oh, we worked on this last season, and now this thing is actually coming out. And so we have a responsibility next season to get better. That's our job. That's our focus, is to get better. And what does that mean? It means we have to work harder, we have to improve, we have to make the team better, we have to make the players better, we have to train harder, we have to work harder, more analysis. So at the end of the season, it's time to get all the games from the analysts, all of them. There's no holiday. It's go and watch every single match and come back with where can we improve? What are the things that we did that didn't work? What are the things that did work? And how do we manage the schedule also? Because for the first time this season, my biggest challenge this season, and there were moments where I got it wrong, and there were moments I think where I got it right. But my biggest moment and challenge this season was the scheduling and managing the scheduling. and working with the periodization, not only in relation to the team, but also in relation to the individual periodization. And it became complicated because you've got, for an example, let me speak for an example, you've got AFCON, where the players are gone for 5 weeks, but the accumulation of match minutes and volume of game time for Grant is completely different to Terrence. But the accumulation, and I'm talking from a physical perspective, but the accumulation of the pressure of playing a competition like that for Terrence is the same as what Grant went through. And so the physiological fatigue levels of the two players may not be the same, but from a psychological perspective, the levels of fatigue are probably the same, if not even more for Terrence, because he's now got the pressure of saying, why am I not playing? I'm here, but I could be contributing. Grant is playing, so he doesn't have so much stress except the stress of saying, I have to win football games. Terrence has got the stress of saying, we have to win. I want to help the team to win, but why am I not playing? So that then leads you to tailoring the periodization into a space where it's got to be custom made for each and every single individual. And then when you think about the size of the squad, when you've got 38, 39 players, and some, Peter Shalulile has to go to Namibia, you add a little bit of traveling, you add a little bit of the responsibility of him being the captain and leading, so already physiologically, psychologically, there's a lot of accumulation of fatigue. It's completely different. Ronwin comes back with a shoulder injury. But in that moment, he says, I'm feeling fine, I have to play. And this is one of the things that I appreciate so much about this group is none of them have ever, whenever I ask them, do you feel ready to play? They say, I'm ready to play. You need me? I'm there to play. And just the other day, I was asking Grant, just before I arrested him, he's laughing because we had that's why I say sometimes I get it wrong, because I got it wrong with Rulani Mokwena. With Debs, I got it wrong because the day before the Swallows match, I had a big fight with Debza about him resting. And he said to me, no, I have to play. I said, listen, you've played 45 games already. That's the same number of games that some of our rivals are going to be playing this season. Some have played even less. He says, no, I'm ready to play. My gut, my understanding, and also the influence around me with the sports scientists, the conditioning coaches, their influence and the information that they gave me was to say, hey, pull him a little bit back and give a bit of rest. But I listened to the player because the player is always the best doctor. And then he goes and he scores a beautiful goal, and then he comes off and he says to me, hey, hamstring. And then I say to him, yeah, but you must not only give it to me, you must take it also because you knew I wanted to rest you. So I've got it, in some of the moments this season, I've got it completely wrong. But in some of the moments, I know I've got it completely right, even if it is against the player's happiness. Terrence had 2 games, and then I came to him and I said to him, no, I want to rest you. And he looked at me, rest me, I've only played 2, I want to play more. Grant the other day was so angry with me. I said, no, you're not in the team, just the last game. I said, you've been playing exceptionally well, but I need to rotate and give others a chance and try to help. And sometimes they don't agree with me, but I always say to them, at the end, I have to make the decision, and they have to respect the decision of the coach. They might not agree with the decision of the coach, but at the end, they've got to respect the decision of the coach. And I am open, always open to discussing with them. I speak to them so much. I speak to them about, like Terrence says, I have one-on-one meetings. I have phone call conversations. I check corrections. I ask about body language. I ask Grant about his clothes, his attire. Why are you wearing this? I'm that type of person. No, it's true. Well, but I'm just trying to say to you that I've gotten it wrong sometimes with the periodization, but I think in some of the moments I've gotten it right. But again, we boil down to the same thing, that I'm dealing with good human beings. who then say, if the coach feels that the best decision is for me to play, then I am available to play. If the coach feels the best decision is for me to rest, then I support that decision. But as I say, this entire season for me the biggest learning experience for me this season has been how do you manage not only the team periodization, because that has always been, from a tactical perspective, something that I've always been quite strong at because of my background in sports science, training the team, the volume, the intensity of the sessions, the drills, the timing. Sometimes they get surprised, the exercise is only 1 minute, and they look at me. But those are the things that we have to do to try to increase the quality of their actions, but also the repetition of the actions with the intensity. And then the biggest one is, how do you now work on the individual? Terrence is now a father of a newborn baby. He's not sleeping as much as maybe Grant is. And I've got to take those things into account. So when I see Terrence slouching in my video session, I've got to say, maybe it's because he's had a late night because the baby has kept him up a little bit. And then when I see him not making an extra run and an extra sprint on the pitch, I've got to understand. And that's why we have even this thing of wellness tests, and the conditioning coaches have to give them wellness scores every single morning. They know they've got to, because that is information for me to say, Grant is in red today. Oh, Bronwyn is in red today. Oh, Debza is green today. Oh, Sipho Mbule is yellow today. And maybe then I've got to say, Sipho, why are you in yellow today? What's bothering you? And it might not be a conversation I can have in front of everybody. It has to be a conversation that I have to have in private. And that, as I say to you, has been probably the biggest learning experience for me this season, is how do you manage the individuals from a periodization perspective? And that is not only just the load from a physiological perspective, it's the psychological, it's the social, and the feeling around being within the group. And that's very, very important. And as I say, sometimes I've gotten it right. Many, many, many times I've gotten it wrong.
Just before we finish, just a plug, Terry and Combatis, they've got a tournament that they do together. Please support and share. And Grant has a birthday coming up. Please support and share. Just be positive about this stuff that the players are doing out there. Thank you, colleagues.
Please buy a holes, guys.
But you've been invited. No, but what's wrong with invited? Guys, don't do it because he hasn't invited me. Thank you, guys. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, coach.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Drive safe. Thank you.